Good evening, traders. This is CloudChartist with some stock charts for your pleasure on the weekly time frame from last week, the week ending the 20th of February. So on Apple, we have a very bullish chart indeed. Bullish and always Ichimoku over the Tenkan-sen, over the cloud. Chikou is free to go higher. We do have a gap here from last week, so it's possible that price could come back down and fill that gap. We're very extended over the Tenkan-sen. We're also in overbought conditions on RSI, but so we'll see what happens. But overall, we're quite bullish on Apple. Next up, we have CMG, the burrito. You see that we had a very bearish candle a couple of weeks ago. Put in a potential reversal here with a close above the Kijun-sen, and then last week we put in a doji sort of between the Kijun-sen and the Tenkan-sen. So for bulls, we need to really get back over the Tenkan-sen at 687.63. Then it should be back to the highs. Also, the Chikou needs to get over these candles, which will happen if that happens. And for bears, we need to lose the Kijun-sen at 667.76. If we do that, then chances are we could come down and potentially maybe even test the cloud. But overall, the chart is bullish and the cloud is rising, so there's no reason to expect much lower prices at the moment. Next up, we have First Solar. First Solar got some really good news about Apple being extremely good customer. So we see that we've been putting in some bullish candles the last few weeks. Although last week we put in a doji, a long-legged doji. I was very curious as to why price happened to stop there. So I ran some fibs, which I like to do. This is one of my little proprietary Ichimoku tricks. I ran my fibs from the Tenkan-sen to the Kijun-sen here. And this happens to be the 38.2 of that range, which is where price stopped. So we'll see what happens. Overall, the chart is still bearish as it's under the cloud, but we do have support of the Tenkan-sen, and we're pretty far towards the Kijun-sen. My rule of thumb is that if price action can make it 50%, above 50% between the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen in this kind of configuration, that chances are good that it will actually test the Kijun-sen. We also have the cloud in the way before the Kijun-sen, but another factor that might make this more bullish than you might think is that we do have this rising cloud here and the cloud twist. So it's entirely possible that price action could sort of just follow the shape of the cloud and maybe even break through here. But that's in May, June area, so that's a long time in the future. So for right now, I'm just watching this 49.38 level, see if it can get back over, back over the psych number of 50. If it does, then the 61.8's at 52.09, and that will be also a similar area to where the top of the cloud is here. So the Chikou will need to break over the cloud also for price to go higher. Let's see what else we have. Google. I've been watching Google for a buy for a while. It's been underperforming the rest of the tech stocks, or many of the tech stocks. And so Google, it looked quite bad here, and then we got this bullish reversal and then this extremely bullish candle. This was a huge range that this candle traded in. Then we put in this very long-legged doji. So it's really, price has been really all over the place for Google. Then we had this really nice bullish candle last 2 weeks ago, and I was interested in buying for a test at the top of the cloud, but we were unable to go higher, and I didn't buy, and instead we reversed and closed back under the Kijun-sen. So we have a defined range here between 548.16 Kijun-sen and 521.96 below. where a price can trade until it breaks one of those. So we'll see what happens if we do break 548.16 to the upside. We'll see the Chikou span come up here, and then the Chikou will have the Kijun-sen to deal with as a potential source of resistance. So keep an eye on that as well. Next up we have IBM. IBM has been making some very bullish progress after putting in these lows. It came back over the Tenkan-sen and closed above the Tenkan-sen 2 weeks ago, and then had some nice bullish progress here. And it's similar to, as I was explaining before, I wanted to know why it happened to stop here, besides there are obvious plenty of prior resistance in this area. And it indeed stopped right under the 50% of this range from the Tenkan-sen to the Kijun-sen. We have this big gap area. It's an open body gap, and by body gap I mean the bodies of the candles. In Ichimoku, these type of gaps are called windows, and they can provide support and resistance. So I'm going to fully expect this one to provide resistance as we're still under it. And so that's an important level to watch. Once we get over this 164.64 level, if we can get over this, the confluence of this gap and also, or the bottom of the gap window, and also the 61.8 of this range, I expect we'll probably test the Kijun-sen above at 172.26. Next up we have LinkedIn. LinkedIn's just putting in a nice bull flag up here after this extremely bullish candle based on news. We do have, however, a flat Tenkan-sen and a flat Kijun-sen below, so it's possible that price could be attracted back towards the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen, but overall still very bullish over the cloud. We do have a flat cloud below also, so keep those in mind. But in the future, as April comes along, we see price trading higher. Or sorry, we see the cloud going higher, so therefore price could follow suit. And next up we have Netflix, very bullish, but coming into prior resistance areas, so we'll see how it handles this prior resistance. Could chop around for a bit. One could make a stretch and call this an inverse left shoulder, maybe even an inverse left double shoulder. So it's possible that we could put in something like a inverse right shoulder here, but that's pure speculation. We have a complicated cloud ahead with a peak here and then a trough, a little rise and then lower, and then a cloud twist. So could be some chaotic or lower prices coming up in May, June, July. But we also have a bear-crossed Tenkan-sen and Kijun-sen inside the cloud here, but it looks like highly likely that the Tenkan-sen could cross back over the Kijun-sen. But in that it's inside the cloud, it's not a strong signal anyway to worry about. Next up, we have the NASDAQ futures chart, which isn't supposed to be in here, so I'm going to skip that. Next up, we have NSC, Norfolk Southern, blue chip transport stock. You see that we had this gap to fill from last year that just filled last week. So we also have prior resistance in this area, so it will be interesting to see if Norfolk just chops around, maybe flags out, goes sideways for a while. We do have a flat Kijun-sen and a flat Tenkan-sen below. But overall, this is a very bullish uptrend. So we'll see what happens in this prior resistance area. Next up, we have Priceline. Very bullish. A couple of weeks. There's this gap that we left. We are still in the cloud, so Priceline, in order to go higher, needs to break over the cloud, but otherwise looks quite bullish. The Chikou has some complications to deal with has resistance at the Kijun-sen, resistance at these candles, and resistance at the Tenkan-sen that it needs to get over also. So we'll see what happens. Price line. Next up we have the VXX, the VIX. Looks pretty bearish. Just filled this gap that it left. Not like that VXX is particularly good at filling gaps or anything like that. I just happened to notice that. But in a bearish downtrend, under the Tenkan-sen, under the Kijun-sen, under the cloud, we do have, however, the Chikou coming into these candles. So if the Chikou holds the support of these candles, we could see some more sideways price action for the VIX. And that's about it for stocks. So thank you for watching, and if you watch my other videos, thank you for watching those as well. Good luck trading this week.